But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining. What I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye.
I don't give a damn what they say about me, as long as I'm succeeding in the mission.
This is not oversight. This is an indictment. Jasmine Crockett looked at Donald Trump's handpicked FBI director and said what everyone else in that room was trying to avoid, that the man leading the most powerful law enforcement agency in America had never even served inside the FBI before taking command. And when Kash Patel tried to interrupt, she cut him off, because this was not his stage. This was not his campaign ad. This was not another performance for Trump. This was a public accounting, a congresswoman saying the quiet part out loud, that Trump's loyalty machine put power in the hands of a man she says is unqualified, political, and dangerous. And what comes next is where she starts laying out the evidence.
So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you are already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacists. Because I specifically, as a Black woman, definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor. Because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues, and frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs? You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody. And then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap. Because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there. Even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice or whatever you want to call him.
That is the contradiction. Kash Patel wants the country to believe he is restoring law and order. But Crockett is accusing him of something much darker. Not leadership, loyalty, not justice, retaliation, not public safety, political theater. She says career officials were targeted. She says resources were redirected. She says the FBI is being pulled away from its core mission while communities are left asking whether anyone in power is still protecting them. And then she makes the charge impossible to ignore. Death threats threats, political violence, right-wing extremism, Republican lawmakers threatened for voting against Jim Jordan, families terrorized, a wife sleeping with a firearm because threats got that real. This is where the defense starts to collapse, because Crockett is not only pointing to Democrats, she is pointing to Republicans too. She is saying, even your own people were threatened. Even your own party felt the danger. Even the politicians inside your own movement saw what this extremism can do. And still, she says, Patel sits there refusing to acknowledge the obvious. That is the heart of the accusation. He tried to talk about strength. She talked about fear. He tried to talk about results. She talked about people living under threat. He tried to play the role of Trump's fighter. She accused him of abandoning the job itself. And then she takes it one step further. A director who cannot fully staff the FBI for years. A director moving resources into immigration crackdowns. A director accused of taking victory laps before the truth is even clear. That is not competence. That is chaos wearing a badge. And the next part is where Crockett turns the accusation into a moral verdict.
The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem. The one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, Deputy Director of National Intelligence with the National Security Council, Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI Director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. But do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts that you cannot dispute. But you can come at me all you want. I don't care.
Thank you, Director, for that. And we appreciate your service. We appreciate the results speak for themselves, I think, pretty plainly, and your commitment not only to results, but to transparency. So we do appreciate that.
There it is. Crockett brings up HBCUs, black students, black communities, people already asking why they were dragged into this violence in the first place. And what happens next? The chairman cuts her off. Jim Jordan jumps in to defend Patel's resume. Russell Fry calls it theater. And Kash Patel says he does not give a damn what they say about him. That is not an answer. That is an evasion. He did not answer the fear. He did not answer the HBCUs. He did not answer the charge that white supremacy is being minimized while communities are being targeted. He answered with statistics. He answered with bravado. He answered like a man who thinks sounding tough is the same thing as being accountable. But this was never just about numbers. This was about whether the FBI is being led by someone loyal to the country or loyal to Trump. Whether law enforcement is protecting the vulnerable or performing for the powerful. Whether the threats facing black Americans, public officials, and targeted communities are being confronted or buried under slogans, applause, and partisan cover. And the Republican response told you everything. They did not treat Crockett's warning like a crisis. They treated it like a performance. They mocked the outrage instead of confronting the danger. That is what this hearing revealed. Not strength, not transparency, not law and order. A loyalist defended by loyalists, while the people asking for protection are told to sit down, be quiet, and accept the show. That is the verdict. They heard the warning, and they chose the performance.